Is this picking up?
Yeah.
No drop.
Welcome, everybody. It is Sunday, December 8th, 2013. I am your host, Connor Bonner Boo Boyd, and I am joined today by Alexander Powell.
Yes, the Alexander in the middle is quite necessary.
Jarrod Black White.
So black, so white.
Aaron Easter Egg Die.
I don't understand, but alright.
George the Monard.
Hi.
And this is motherfucking Film Fetish, your fetishistic home for film fuckery. And today we are talking about not the movie that you were hearing the music from, but another Refn joint. Only God Forgives.
I always say fucking
The new Wind and Refn joint.
Refn. I don't know.
Refn.
Refn sounds like it's like Refn.
You should release a hip hop album. Refn.
Refn.
Yo, my name is Refn, and I'm here to say, Alex Cox, come back to cinema today.
Let's not reference that moment in life where I did that
Every day
impersonation.
is a winding road. All right, so what we're going to talk about is Only God Forgives. But first, what movies have we seen this week, guys? I think we've all seen... Well, George and I saw this for the first time this week, but I think you guys have all seen it. Dogtooth?
Yes.
Dogtooth.
We've all seen Dogtooth.
And I literally went into this film knowing zip about it.
One and cold. Good.
All I knew was that it was Greek. Some dude made it, and George's dad said it was one of the most disturbing films he'd ever seen. So it was kind of like nerve-wracking a little bit, kind of intimidating, but I saw it, and it was pretty rad. I was kind of surprised that movies like that could get made still.
And get nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
Right, which is crazy.
What won over that movie that year? Do you know? What was
Can't
the
remember.
film won that?
Incendies or...
Was it really that one?
I'm not sure.
The Artist.
No, because The
2011.
Artist was up for
I know,
Best
but
Picture.
it's
This
just
was
like
Best Foreign.
in terms of foreign films that
It wasn't like a separation or something, right?
No, I
I
think
don't know.
Separation
I don't think it was that year.
the year after.
Alright.
I
Yeah.
thought it was 08. I don't know. I'm not an Oscar.
I think it was 09. I think that
Oscar
was...
geek.
Here, let me go to Wikipedia. And
Anyways,
find
whatever.
out.
While Alex is doing that, yeah, that movie's fucking awesome. It's amazing. I knew a little bit about it. I seen like little parts and clips of it. The movies to me, what's so amazing about that film really sunk in at the scene at the dinner table, and there's kind of like a chit chat about what to do for entertainment that night. And like the daughter just goes, "Mom, can you pass the phone?" And she just gives her the salt shaker.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah, it all starts clicking.
My
after that.
favorite
moments
part
like that
is
are
when like
best.
the 30-year-old guy climbs into bed with his parents because he's scared at night.
Yeah.
That's my
Right.
favorite part in the movie.
That's the most like yeah.
The whole cat scene
Yeah,
it's
is
so cool.
amazing. And the ending
the
is just
woofing
like...
that they do. Oh, so we should probably give some context because this probably makes no fucking sense to anyone. So
Good.
essentially, yeah, right. Essentially, Dogtooth is a film about that's criticizing the way that society brings up its people. I would say that's
It's like an
part of
allegory
the thing.
ramped up to 11.
Yeah,
It's
I think
like
crazy
homeschooling to like a crazy
you
extent.
could say it's homeschooling. I thought it was very North Korea. I thought it was very like
You know what reminded-
critical
yeah.
of the government and their control over people. I thought
Is it a better life or better world or whatever that
In a
film
Better
is?
World
In a Better
from
World,
Denmark
yeah.
won that year that it was nominated. This is the year that The King's Speech won Best Picture.
Is that a good? Is that a good? Is that a?
Okay.
Is
That was 09, right?
Is
Yes,
that
it's
film better
2009.
than Dogtooth?
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
But
But
I
also
doubt
that
it.
year, Beautiful from Mexico was nominated, which starred
Oh, the
Javier Bardem.
Javier Bardem.
Oh, I
Yeah,
heard
and also
good things.
Those are the,
Incendies from Canada.
Incendies was that
and
year,
then
but it
also
didn't win,
Outside
yeah.
the Law from Algeria was also nominated that year at the
I see.
Oscars. So it was quite a year.
But yeah, I just think it's
Foreign language
a critique on authority in general, and I think it's done like really well. And what's cool about that movie is that honestly, that movie could have been shot. That could have been like a student film. That's what's so
Yeah.
cool about it because they just had that house, and then some of the because it all takes place in this house.
Yep.
And essentially, what it is it's a film about a family of people that are basically, I mean, yeah, they're like 30 years old, and they're all basically blinded from any form of outside reality from their home, and you slowly realize how kind of twisted and dark
Yeah.
that is, but also kind of how hilarious it is because you see
It's
all
like
these.
the most
Oh, it's very
absurd
dark.
movie
It's got
ever.
really dark humor running through
Yeah.
all of it.
Because I thought it was supposed to be like a very serious film, but I laughed at
too.
a lot of parts.
I didn't realize it was
and
supposed to be
hearing that it was
comedy as
supposed
well.
to be humorous in
it's
some parts
supposed to push your
made
buttons
it
and make you
better
laugh.
for me.
Yeah.
It actually reminded me, just thought about it now, there's a great documentary called Jesus Camp. Anyone seen that?
Yes.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there's a
Yes.
scene where the mother's teaching her like 8-year-old son about like creationism and stuff, and how evolution's all wrong and shit like that. And thinking about that reminds me of how like they can just tell their kids anything as long as they're sheltered enough. And if you keep them
Yeah.
far
Yeah,
away from
yeah.
the outside world, you can just tell your kids anything. You can tell them that
Yeah.
planes
Yeah.
fall from the sky and shrink, and like
Yeah.
you know.
It's insane. I think it's a comment on religion too. I think it's a comment on every kind of
It's a comment
hierarchy.
on-
Yeah, or,
system.
or institutional.
It's it's all about institution.
And it's so perfectly directed and paced in every area.
Yeah.
Like the I mean, remember we were watching it and the scene where it just cuts to the scene of the celebration for the parents' anniversary, and it's that flat angle of like the two daughters standing in the sun with the guitar and all like
Yeah.
the lights and the colors. It was just like like to see this film so like bare in like cinematography.
Yeah.
And see that like a little bit of color. It was just such like a
Yeah.
such a wow moment.
Everything's
It's
like
a very, very simple aesthetic, which I guess works
Yeah.
with the kind of the sheltered nature of the world that they're trying to create for the
It
people.
reminds me of a lot too of the first Dogma '95 film, Thomas Vinterberg's Festin,
yeah. Okay.
which
never seen
is
that one.
it's another. Well,
seems
this is
very Dogma
before that,
95.
but it's a commentary on family values
Right.
and like
But
deconstructing
shot
these
very
family
differently from
values.
Festin.
Very different, but like a similar kind of eerie, like
Right.
awkward family relation going on.
It seemed like a Dogma 95 film. It seemed like it was following some of the rules.
Well, in the sense that they don't really jazz it up much. Like you
Right.
said, it could have been a student film, and it's just shot in this house with just a few actors, and
Yeah.
they don't jazz it up.
Some
in any
some very
way.
dedicated actors too.
But
Going
yeah,
through what
they really
do.
are
it
great.
does not Dogma because it does have a style, and it
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, it
Dogma
doesn't
has
fo-
a style, but it's got a style all
Doesn't
its
follow
own.
all
But
the
it
rules
is
of that
very
whole thing.
simplistic and adheres to that style in
Right.
a way.
It's classic visual storytelling. It's just showing you. It's not like to the point of being like stage play, but it's just showing you what you need to see. It shows you this. It like you said. It was very novelistic. It was like each shot was a sentence, kind of that kind of thing.
Right.
And everything was a statement. Every
Did each
shot
sentence-
was there.
Did each sentence rhyme with the next?
Fuck you for bringing that shit up. And I just think it was really, I don't know. It's refreshing to see films like that
Yeah.
where the filmmakers just kind of get it. You know what I mean? They're just very intelligent, and it's just satisfying to watch them
Yeah.
work.
I want to
It's
go
just
see
like
his
looking at it
second
really
movie.
nice.
The movie
I've seen
Yeah.
Alps.
Is
I've
Alps
seen
good?
it. It's pretty good. It's not nearly as good as Dogtooth.
I'm assuming it's very different. It's a different kind of feel to it.
I mean,
or is it kind of in the same
it
vein
shot in the
as
same-
his-
it's similar in how awkward everything is.
Right.
Like everything is very, very awkward, like purposefully. And of course, like the premise is extremely different.
Right.
But you can definitely tell it's like this guy's follow-up movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Let's say the other
What's the
thing
guy's
that,
name, by the way? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I don't know his name.
Yorgos Lanthimos. I don't know how to
Yeah.
say
Hey,
it.
let me look
But
that
I'd
up
say the
again.
other thing that Dogtooth reminds me of is some of the early Michael Haneke films like Seventh
Okay.
Continent or Benny's Video.
Which
all-
very funny
which-
games I hear. I hear it's very funny games. It's like a
Yeah,
lot like-
just like the
Oh, yeah, I can kinda
some of
see
the
it.
some of the shots that are just very like flat and like just like show you what's going on and just long takes, and also the twisted, that they show it so simply but yet it's so twisted and
Yeah.
messed up underneath, and like Benny's Video or Seventh Continent, like some of those early Haneke films that are very like almost clinical in the way they're shot, just like
Right.
boom, here's this. Boom,
I think-
here's that. But then at the same time, there's all these layers of subtext and like creepy, eerie, like character relations going on underneath. And it reminds me of those in a way too.
Well, it is kind of fascinating to watch the film, and you see these very, very simple shots set up, but then you see how the truth resists simplicity, because within that shot there is, like you were saying, all the subtext. You just see all the little things going on, or you see a car running, and you realize the fact that that trunk isn't opening. I'm sorry, that's almost a spoiler.
No, nobody knows what that means unless
Yeah.
they've seen the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it kind of reminded me of I don't know, some shots of like Battle Royale where there's like some shots where people are like seriously injured, but it's just like camera's not moving, they're not moving, they're just staring at something.
Battle Royale also has a similar sense of dark humor to it.
Right.
Where it's like
definitely
something
does.
that's like not funny at all, made funny.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say that has that tie too.
Right.
But I think that I think my favorite part, and I think also the most disturbing part, is the part where she's clipping off the feet of the Barbie doll and then making
She's
screaming noises.
She's like,
Like, yeah, that was the most like unsettling, disturbing part for me, just because like the you have this girl that's basically a child in heart and in mind. Well, not in heart, but like in mind, because she's just been sheltered, and what she does in her spare time is cutting off the feet of dolls and then making horribly realistic, might I add, screaming noises.
Yeah.
Well, it was just wow. Just some of the content and how spare, like how like the violent parts just spiked out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like they just
Yeah.
like,
You're saying
so
it's
unexpected.
one of those movies where
The
afterwards
VCR
you become
part
so
is
aware of your
insane.
surroundings, like
Yeah.
everything feels sharp, everything can seriously like hurt you.
Yeah.
You feel like, oh my god, I can trip right now and I can get my eye pierced with like the fucking corner of a
Right.
table. Like in that Portlandia sketch or something.
Yeah. But yeah, overall a good movie. I'll have to see Alps.
Yeah. Speaking
Yeah,
of
I'm interested in
It's
seeing
definitely
it
worth
too.
seeing.
Worth seeing.
It's like very, very aesthetically similar to Dogtooth.
I'm very interested in seeing it because the premise highly intrigues me.
It's
All right,
a
extremely
great
interesting.
premise, yeah.
I think that's probably one of the first like modern Greek films I think I've ever seen. I don't know Greek cinema at all.
Other than like some Angelopoulos films, I haven't seen many Greek films at all.
which I wonder what that kind of culture's like in terms of cinema, like what that is
Yeah,
like
I'm
if
not
they
sure.
really have much of a culture, but. I mean, I'm sure they do.
Ow!
I mean,
much of our culture,
it's probably
just
German by now.
just sitting
all
by the Parthenon
bailing
with
out
no
they've
money.
done, but and I did think it was funny how the dad drove a Mercedes, because like politically, Germany bought like saved Greece financially, like their economy. They like bailed them out, and he was driving a German car. But that happened probably after this movie. But anyways,
Okay, so Dogma 95, right? Harmony Korine, Spring Breakers.
Yeah.
how many Koreans? Dogma 95.
He made
He
Dogma
made
95.
he made Julian Donkey Boy, which breaks a lot of the rules,
I
but
thought
yet
that was-
still they gave it the
I
classification.
thought Lars von Trier was like the biggest.
Lars von Trier and Thomas Vinterberg are like the two main
Gods.
guys, the godfathers of.
Sure.
Even though Lars von Trier only made one Dogma 95 film, The Idiots. That's the only Lars von Trier Dogma
I'm
95
still looking
film.
for the idiots.
It's hard to find.
I can't find it.
I remember I went to an old video store and I was like me and my friends visited like RISD and Rhode Island School of Design or whatever, and around there we found a video store and it organized its films based on movements. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
No,
I'm
it's
just
okay.
looking at the computer and it's like spiking.
Oh, jeez. Okay. We went to a video store and they categorized their movies by movements and
awesome.
stuff, and they
That's
had
awesome.
a Dogma 95 movement, and it was like, as many films are in there. I forget how many films are in that movement.
Yeah,
And it was like-
it's a good amount. I mean, you can still submit your film for Dogma 95 classification,
I guess you
and
could.
if they'll send you back a certificate or whatever. I don't know what the fuck that really means, or
Wow.
whether
And then,
it's
like,
worth
next to it was,
anything.
like-
Nintendo
but-
seal of certification.
Right? Nintendo certification, yeah. Sega used to have those too.
We'll save that for our video game podcast.
Vector Man. Everyone played Vector Man? You guys ever played Vector Man? Oh my god.
No.
It's a game where you play as a guy and he's just made of like green balls and he shoots out like energy spheres.
Yeah.
That sounds thrilling, just like something
Spring
else that we're going
Breakers.
to talk
Anyways,
about.
sorry.
Harmony Korine, Spring Breakers.
Well, why? Let's tell everyone why we're approaching Spring Breakers again,
Why are we approaching Spring Breakers?
because we saw Project X.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we're
It's a
talking
good
about Spring
comparison,
Breakers.
actually.
Were you there? When we
Yeah,
were
he was
Project
there.
X?
Yeah.
I've also seen Project X.
Which
I'm
have you seen
guessing the
Project X?
difference being that one movie is actually good and the other one is a horrible flaming pile of shit.
Have you seen Project
Well,
X?
I have not
Let's-
seen
let's
Project
not
X.
get
So you
into
have
it.
no context.
I have no
Alex.
context.
You're like
but
a child
I'm
that walks
guessing-
into a movie and
but
asks
knowing
what's
the
going
film,
on.
but knowing what I've heard about Project X and knowing what I know about Harmony Korine, I'm assuming that there must be opposites to some
Here's
degree.
You would
here's
assume
here's
correct.
how I see it. Okay, Project X.
Has midgets.
It does. I feel like those should be in Spring Breakers. That's a pro that,
That,
Spring Breakers doesn't have.
if you had asked me before I saw Spring Breakers and Project X which movie was more likely to have little people in it, I would not have picked Project X.
Yeah, because he had a little person
That's
in
true.
Dogma.
Yeah.
I'm imagining Alien from Spring Breakers having a couple little people henchmen. That's what I'm expecting.
Did he?
Taking all my
Did he?
shit.
No, he had those
Look
weird,
at all
the
my
weird twins
shit.
that hung out with him. The
Yeah.
threesome twins.
But let me-
Scarface on repeat, constant.
I got Calvin Klein
Hudgens.
Escape shorts of every color.
Here's how I see it.
Yeah.
Project X takes what Spring Breakers is analyzing and exploits it to get people to watch the film and celebrates it without critiquing it. Spring Breakers celebrates it because you can just tell by the way that's made and by the attitude in which those things are displayed. The spring breaking culture, the drinking, the tits everywhere, just the overall just complete hedonism of it is celebrated, and you can tell that Harmony Korine is old. He's an older person because he can display these things for what they are, like what they meant to him probably at a younger age, but then you kind of get this breakdown, this critique. It's just a very knowing film. It's like a very intelligent film because it shows these spring breakers, and then it shows the come down, the loss of the high, the kind of the like boring aspect of everyday life, and it shows the relationship between that, the boring and everyday life, and the people that are just inhabiting those lives, how they're fucking boring people, and they need the spring break in order to feel alive, and they need it to escape reality. And he really depicts reality as something that is so shitty and sad.
Yeah.
And it's just done just masterfully well. Like Project X was probably made by a group of probably producers, but also
It's
just
filmed by committee, you know?
yeah. It was
So-
it's probably
we
a
gotta
lot
checklist
of
of what we need to have to make a good party movie.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and
And it's
also
that
yeah.
film is the poster. The
Right.
poster of that film is practically the movie. You know,
Right.
it's getting the people into the seats. So
Like I was entertained by it. Don't get me wrong. I thoroughly was. I didn't feel like I wasted time watching it.
To quote Robert Ebert, I mean, there were things moving on screen, so I looked at them and paid attention to them. But I mean, like,
Right.
yeah, beyond that, it
Yeah,
was...
entertaining.
I wouldn't mind
with
watching.
a lowercase e.
I wouldn't mind cutting out the whole beginning to the build up and the ending and just watch the party part and be like, okay. But Harmony Korine filmed the party sequences in Spoon Breakers like infinitely better. He just
They were more thrilling.
With
They
much
kept you on the edge of your
He had
seat.
so much
There
more of a
was-
sense
it's
of
just
rhythm,
the-
a better soundtrack. He just kind of
yeah.
knew how
The
to
best
film it.
soundtrack. I love that. The soundtrack
Spring Breakers
of
had
Spring
such a better
Breakers.
soundtrack than
I
Project
mean, like,
X.
I'm not
It's
the
ridiculous.
biggest Skrillex fan.
He made Skrillex
But
good
if
for
you
the
could
The way it was
ever use
used,
that
I want to say
yeah.
the biggest one of the biggest laughs for me each time I was in the theater seeing Spring Breakers for me, and nobody else ever laughed. This was one of the things that only I laughed at. There's a few moments in that movie
This is your life.
because I saw it a few times in theaters, and every time there was a few moments that only I would laugh at. One of them is the very beginning when they do the first drop, and there's all the guys with the beer.
Oh, yeah.
Every time I would bust out laughing and look around, and everyone else is just like, looking.
Yeah,
And the other one is at the
slow
end.
motion dolly to the tits that are
Yeah.
just like getting beard poured all over, and
That's
the
the best
Skrillex
watching
going.
that
You're just like,
movie.
oh my
I
god.
watched that movie with my dad in the theater, and it was like the weirdest thing.
But the other moment is at the end where they do a reprise of that music, and it's like a string arrangement of it.
Yeah.
The
Oh, yeah. Oh, but that is beyond.
And I laugh
genius,
my
though.
it's so brilliant.
Yeah.
That he does like a moving, emotional,
It's
melodramatic string
it's the-
arrangement of the song.
It's just it's a look at just the mythology and the kind of
Right.
religious aspect of this mecca for just like upper middle class white people who go there and just party. And
Yeah.
it's just like it just breaks down, it takes it to its most like primitive and tribal like
yeah, it's
like
very
means.
animalistic.
Like it's
Yeah.
just very, and the whole and that aspect of it, the whole like reprise of the Skrillex thing.
Yeah.
It's like that is a song for that culture that is important. So like that's why it's being played in like an
Yeah.
orchestral.
And it's-
way,
I don't like
because
Skrillex,
it's
but like, of course it was Skrillex.
It's so great. 'Cause
Right.
I was so split on how I felt about Harmony Korine until I saw that movie. Like I saw Gummo, and I'm like, Gummo's interesting. Stuck with me for a while. I've seen a lot of his short films.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a segment of The Fourth Dimension with Val Kilmer, and I was kind of split on how I felt about him. And I always saw Spring Breakers. I'm like, God, like I can't wait for his
You
next
just
movie.
fucking nailed it. I
Like,
just
did it
can't
so
Did none
totally
of you
well.
have
describe
like
it.
a problem? I thought the ending shootout was so boring.
Really?
That's my one problem.
I think it was
with
supposed to
Breakers.
be not action. I don't think it was supposed to be.
No, it
I
wasn't
thought
supposed
it
to be
was-
action packed.
I just
It's kind of.
I wasn't expecting like an action movie at the end. I just like wasn't interested.
I thought it was
in what happened.
like conceptually interesting how these characters' coming of age is shooting people.
Right.
I thought that was really interesting, like almost like a Bonnie and Clyde type thing, like killing people and
I found
robbing
it
banks
very-
brought them together. Like
Right.
these people like learned to grow up by shooting people in the head.
The shootout at the end, I think, was where the film really dipped itself into surrealism for the
Really?
first time. Like the opening shot, all that stuff, that's very surreal. It's all very like just magical. Like
fantastical.
It's just fantasy, really. Like showing these parties with like 4-story balconies with a
Right.
pool and a DJ and like all this crazy shit just makes it seem so like it makes it seem like fantasy. And I think the end is like the first part where it actually fully like becomes surreal because you have these 2 girls in like bikinis and beanies or ski masks shooting all these people, and it's just like this. I think it's akin to like the end of Grease where they fly in the car.
Yeah.
The whole movie is somewhat realistic.
Interesting.
Up there,
That's
and then at the
interesting
end,
comparison,
it's just like this takeoff into a dreamland, and they are just now fully immersed in this where they are covered in black light.
Yeah.
They're shooting people, and it's just like they are now in the fantasy. They are now just completely swallowed up by this world.
Right.
Where before it seemed like this movie was going to be real. It is now just kind of completely consumed them.
I know.
Yeah,
I
and it's
agree.
just so fantastic.
I would have appreciated it. I think if it went like a step further.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just like Spring Breakers isn't my favorite Harmony Korine. It was just
Sure.
because of the end. I just like,
Which one do you prefer?
I love Gummo.
Oh, I think Gummo's my favorite too, but
Gummo.
still, Spring Breakers is really.
I think I prefer this one to Gummo. I feel like I could just like watch this like on repeat
Yeah.
sometimes. I remember like I watched Why
Spring Breakers on repeat.
constant, y'all. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, he's like such a.
And
I would watch an interview with him on Vice. He was talking about. I don't know if anyone has seen the Vice interview
didn't
with
see
him.
that.
And he's talking about Spring Breakers. He's talking about how he was trying to make a movie like this for a while, where it's kind of like a liquid narrative, where kind of something that just flows through you, and it's kind of like you don't really think about the plot. Like, oh, are we at this point where the climax
definitely isn't
happens?
flowing.
It just feels like it just goes through you and feels like a song almost. I felt that was really true, and also the cinematography. He told the cinematographer to make the film like it was shot on Skittles.
Yeah.
Like it was lit with Skittles or something. It was so colorful and so rich with that kind of like
It was
vibrancy.
rainbow. It was Technicolor.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
If I may make one allusion, I feel like this film, and you guys are going to groan probably, but I feel that comparisons can be made with it and Heart of Darkness. I think that there is.
I'm not gonna groan. No.
Okay.
No, okay.
I didn't know
I'm
how far I was.
I'm
gonna
the
explain. I don't know
biggest-
how much artistic
I'm
license
the
I was
biggest
giving.
Heart of Darkness fan you can possibly
Okay.
find, and I'm
so
not.
I'll be
I'm
careful.
following
So-
you a little bit. Okay.
It's they're kind of going into this jungle, which is Spring Breakers, and it on the surface it seems like one thing. It seems like partying, it seems like this, but as they get closer, they realize there's crime, there's sex, there's drugs, and they slowly and people start backing out of it. But I think similarities can be seen between Apocalypse Now's ending and this movie's ending, because Apocalypse Now, it's kind of like he becomes exactly what he would like. Just the jungle's consumed him, and even
Right.
though they have a duty to Alien to kill Gucci Mane and all of his thugs, but in that one he has a duty to kill Kurtz, but he kills him in this very primal way, just like how they kill him in like the most gangster like cheeseball
Yeah.
like
Like he in the
Like-
hot tub.
spring break type of way. Yeah.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
And it's just like it's two entities, these two like nebulous like cultures, and one's a culture and one's, or really they're both environments. One's the jungle, one is spring break, and I think they both, this group of people, they just keep going deeper and deeper into the quote unquote jungles, and finally some of them get consumed by it.
Well, I think the thing about Heart of Darkness, to go back to the Conrad, the true roots of it, the novel, is something that the aim of that story and the arc of that story and the narrative thrust of that story is realizing that you yourself are not exempt from the evil
Yeah,
that you
possibly lies within
witness in mankind.
Right.
That story is about the protagonist realizing that he is Kurtz, and that and understanding that. And I think it's a theme that's been borrowed so many times, and
Sure.
it works time and time again. Whether it's Apocalypse Now or Gear, The Wrath of God, or I'd never thought about Spring Breakers in that way, but it does have that going into that world.
And it gets darker.
And
the film gets darker.
Yeah, and becoming part of that world, even if you were always really that's who you were. And I think all those monologues they have where we found our true selves and this is where I was meant to be.
Right.
It's kind of
if they're gonna be
the
friends
animal
forever,
coming out.
We'll never forget this. It's like, yeah.
Kurtz feels comfortable where he is. That's where he wants to be because he's tired of getting told orders. So now he's this king, essentially, this god in this jungle, society. Right. And in Spring Breakers, they are tired of reality, and they feel comfortable in this spring break so much that they just completely get consumed by it. They go insane. Someone is insane to run around in a bikini and shoot like people.
Right.
I think that's the first fantastic sign of insanity right there. And but I think just not all that shit would not work if this film wasn't shot in such a fantastic way like it was. Like it was.
Everything about the editing and the way it's put together is just a stroke of genius.
Right. And it's also kind of lucky that the way it's edited also happens to be very attractive to a general audience as well. Like the trailer looked like something that you could see a lot of people going to see.
But in a way where they went in and they didn't know why they didn't like it.
Right.
People I remember I had friends that just wouldn't go see this movie. It was just like, because everyone assumed it would be just like a party movie.
Well, you had the camp of people who were above it because they were above it, but they didn't know what it was, and they said they thought it was what it was being marketed as towards the people who wouldn't have gone to see it if it was marketed properly. I'm not properly, but in a more representative way
of what the film would actually
of what
be.
The film was about.
Yeah. People need to catch on to the fact that if a director is credited alone in a trailer, then it's going to be not a general. It's not going to be a typical movie because like Gravity, Alfonso Cuarón was credited in the trailer. Like. There's gonna be some visual kind of voice in this film.
Right.
Like it's not just gonna be some average thing, Because I didn't even know who Harmony Korine was. What's up?
Or filmed by committee, as Jarrod pointed out.
Right.
That it's not.
Like it's not gonna be that. Like when I saw Harmony Korine, that was like the first time I heard of him when I saw that trailer.
Me too.
But I was like, oh. This is clearly a director I should look at, and I looked at his. I went to IMDb, looked at his films. I'm like, okay, this guy's gonna have. He's probably gonna have a bit of a. I wouldn't say an agenda, but he's gonna have a vision that's
gonna be an edge
have the same
to it.
birthday.
It's not going to be.
Yeah.
It's gonna be an actual direction with the film as opposed to just like, oh hey, money, hey cool.
Yeah.
We're bringing you all in for money.
But yeah, that film. I mean.
But watching Project X and having seen Spring Breakers quite a few times and comparing it because they came out around the same time. I think Project X was first, but
that's true. Yeah.
I don't want to get really into Project X, but the ending of Project X is such a convoluted fucking mess of intentions. At the end of Project X, you have the dad standing next to the kid, and the dad does this stupid thing where he says, "So how many people did you have at this party?" And the kid, and he's like, I didn't think you had it in you.
The house is destroyed, by the way.
The house is destroyed, and the dad's saying, I didn't think you had it in you, but you're still in trouble. And in that moment, when he snapped back to, I'm still in trouble, I went from being angry to really angry.
Right.
Because if you went all out on that ending and had the kid get everything he wanted, and the dad was like, way to go, son, high five, let's go live in the motel, we'll have a party next weekend.
Yeah.
That, I almost would have liked that better. Because at least it wouldn't have been a cop-out.
Absolutely.
The way they did it. It's like, the way they did it was such a cop-out.
They want to have both.
Either have the kid jump off the roof and die, or have it go full-out nonsensical
how
fantasy.
great if we jumped off the roof he died.
Honestly,
would have saved the film.
How good would that be?
Just
a 180 turn.
Dad in the beginning of the film goes, he's not going to have anyone over.
He's a loser.
And it's like, so you're telling me that 50-year-old, 40-year-old adults still think that the people are losers because they don't party. That's probably the most
immature.
That's probably the most immature,
childish,
viral, just disgusting thing you could possibly do. Because that's going to perpetuate so many insecure teenagers' thoughts that if you don't do this, you're not cool. And by depicting adults as that, it just makes it seem like the entire world is based on partying.
Right.
I
It's
thought
the most
that
disgusting
that
thing.
detail of him saying that was going to play into it some way. Like he was going to find out they were having the party
Yeah.
and come back, and it was going to be like, oh shit, Dad's here, and he's like, party on, dudes, and he
Yeah.
starts partying. I thought they were going to do something like that, and that was why they had. But then nothing, and the way they did it was so stupid and so cheap and contrived. It.
And that was like
those
his
two
real
movies
father. That
is-
wasn't like a stepfather or someone who wasn't related to him. That was his actual
I
father.
know.
Calling him a loser.
comparing
It's
those
really
two
remarkable.
movies and the way they
Right.
Yeah.
approach their subjects just goes to show you how you can take the same subject
Right.
and
And even
Honestly, if you got everything you wanted, that would have
and
been
that movie,
awesome.
and Project is so cynical. It's such a cynical
very-
movie.
it's really
and Harmony
cynical,
Korine
yeah.
has a certain like, even though his films goes very dark places, there's a certain warmth to it. I think. I always
well
find
because he
I
has
always try to
affection.
Yeah.
Like Herzog when he makes Even Dwarves
Yeah.
Started Small about all these strange people, or Michael Moore when he goes to Flint, Michigan and films the woman killing the rabbits in her backyard. He has an affection for these
Yeah.
characters.
Right, absolutely.
He has an affinity, or
Right.
John Waters taking Divine.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
like the
David
weirdness
Walker.
of
That's
them.
true.
He has such an
Yeah,
affinity and
John
such
Waters
a
is a good example.
love for the misfit.
Uh-huh.
And Harmony Korine, he can pick apart the flaws of these spring break people, but he said before he made the film as almost like a hedonistic catharsis,
Yeah.
reliving of what he missed as a
And
child.
he lashed,
has an affinity.
And he like lashed out back at like the critics that were saying like the film is so like judgmental of the culture, and he was like very against that. He was saying like
because
Right,
he has
I
a
can't
love
stand-
for it, even if he sees what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
Like, as a filmmaker, you really should have some sort of affection for the strange, because that's part of the reason I love Emerson, is because there's so much weird shit. It may not even be like, it may not be something I'm into, but I think it's so cool that to see just weird shit, weird people, weird misfits, and characters that have have gone through some really strange things.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and if I didn't want that, I would have just stayed in Kirkwood, Missouri. Like, I would have
Right.
just, I wouldn't have come out here.
You have to have a passion for what it is that you're
Yeah.
showing in
Right.
the film, whether it's the strange people or the total banal,
Yeah.
day-to-day office shit.
And,
Whether
and
you're
how could
making
you-
and
how
Harmony
could you
Korine
possibly-
understands that very well because he like
Right.
from his upbringing and from like what you hear about
Yeah.
like his past and stuff. Like he did weird things in his life.
Yeah.
How could you be an artist or a filmmaker and then despise or perhaps be offended by something strange and like nerdy and weird?
Yeah.
I
and,
know.
like how
the
could
kid
you?
in our
and-
class when David watched
Well,
Gummo?
we don't need to bring up names specifically, but when we were watching a screening of Gummo in one of our classes, a media production class, and one person's like, "I hated the film. It was viral. It was vile. It
and
was disgusting.
disgusting.
The scene where he was in the bathtub eating the chocolate bar and all the dirty water. I hated it. It was terrible to look at." And it's like, well, you're missing the point, because obviously the film is supposed to be commenting on this lifestyle and the way that
Yeah.
these people scrap by in this very really strange way, and you're just missing the point because you're uncomfortable and you're supposed to be, but you don't understand that.
I love the ending to Gummo. It's one of the most
yes,
beautiful endings.
I know. Gummo is such a warm and affectionate like hug of a movie in a weird way.
Yeah.
In a weird
I'll
way.
have
In a
See it.
really weird
It's like
way.
hugging like
It's like
this
getting
dirty person.
yeah, it's like hugging
Hugging
this
a
dirty
homeless
person
guy.
A
with
filthy, like smelly person.
all those
You're
scenes
like,
where they're
oh,
riding
okay.
around on the bikes with the blaring black
Yeah,
metal, and
so
it's like
cool.
it's
So
he
cool.
loves that.
And then
he
ending
loves
with
it.
the kissing in the pool and
Yeah.
like
That's
the
a great shot.
Orbison's playing. It's just
I still
like,
gotta see it.
there's
Yeah.
something really oddly magical about that. And it's hard to put your finger on, but it's
And
like
it's
there.
interesting to see Harmony Korine make a film like Spring Breakers that has like a kind of, arm around the shoulder type
Yeah.
look on these young people.
Right.
Where he wrote Kids, which is kind of the polar opposite. Kids is like, get me away from these people.
Right.
Kids is like, I've
see
been in
that
this
still.
world and it sucks. These people are scum. And this is kind of like an older person coming back and looking at it and with more understanding. Because Kids is a really good movie. I really like Kids, but it doesn't really get into the mentality of these people on a personal basis. It gets into a
Right.
social level. It's more of a social, why do these kids do this? Because look at the situation they're in. You can't blame them. They have nothing to live for. You've given them nothing to live for. Of course they're acting like
Yeah.
this.
Right.
Whereas I think Spring Breakers is more gets into the mindset of those kids in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a more warm film for it.
Yeah, I think a film that does that beautifully in terms of like analyzing a society in a non-judgmental kind of just exploring kind of way is I don't know if you guys have seen Repo Man. You've seen that?
Repo Man. Yeah,
I think that's a film where the director. I mean, Alex Cox just probably wanted to be a punk. He probably was.
And
a
you
punk.
could say the same thing about his next film, Sid and Nancy.
I haven't seen that one.
Sid and Nancy shows, the most vile, horrible human, actions. But at the end, there's this beautiful scene where he drives away in this taxi, and it's a goodbye. It's a farewell to punk. It's a farewell to the scene. It's a farewell to going down in the tubes at midnight. And there's a kid with a boombox playing a disco song.
Oh God.
And it's brilliant.
That's
and
funny.
it's this guy was a horrible human being, but farewell, rest in peace.
Right.
I
mean, that's really. It's not when a film can really. Like, who wants to just watch a film that just bashes a culture?
Right.
There's no. Why have that? There's no
There's
point.
a certain kind of like self-loathing in that. I think to just be like, oh God, I hate this
because
people
you
so
have
much.
like Red State. Like Red State is not a calm. I know you like that film, Jarrod.
Yeah.
Red State to me is not a calm examination of something. It is a demonizing and
I don't want to get into Red State. I agree with your point in a way, but I don't want to get into Red State again. But I think
he would treat. I think Kevin Smith treated Red State less like judging them, but more kind of like an Inglorious Bastard kind of take on it, where it's kind of like, let's just watch people get blown up.
I think it was
kind of
like, let's turn these people into a horror movie type thing. Like,
that's what.
And I think it worked from that angle.
I mean, it worked in terms of horror, but you have such an opportunity. Like, imagine a film that follows one of the Westboro Baptist Church families from their perspective.
Just watch Louis Theroux.
Watch Louis Theroux's 2 documentaries he's done about the Westboro Baptist Church. They're really good.
That's what you're looking for.
Okay.
They're really good.
He's the guy on camera that like.
He's the guy on camera.
God,
he's amazing.
I love
the way he goes about interviewing those subjects is brilliant because he lets them talk and they offend him and he doesn't defend himself.
They're really, and I'm going to say this on this program, but the Westboro Baptist Church has always fascinated me because they are speaking about one of the most controversial. They are coming from one of the most controversial points of views, interpretations of something. But they're incredibly vocal, but they're also completely nonviolent. They are completely nonviolent. They always work within their means. If they're told to step back, they step back. If they're told they can't come this close to something, they'll come as close as they can, but they'll stop. And it's so interesting to see these people that are, and apparently they don't actually do it like. There's a lot of they actually have a lot of gay friends that they have come over for dinner for discussions and things like that, but they're not like it's just strange because they feel like there's some divine reason that they're doing this, but they're still like separated from their ideals as people on like a person-to-person basis, and I think it's just it's a fascinating.
It's a really weird subject, and I've studied it a lot because I'm really.
They're one of the best
interested
examples of utilizing freedom of speech properly in America.
Can't really get into it, but I just want to say like, what we were saying about I think if you're watching a film and it's really, really critical of the subjects in a way that's just unapologetically critical of it, it's almost like when we were saying about passion before, like having a passion for the story you're telling. It's like that passion is fueled totally by hate, or totally by misunderstanding, or
like
being unable to, relate to something. It's like if you think that about Red State, it's like Kevin Smith made that film because he hates or doesn't understand the angle that they're approaching it from.
Right.
And I think like a documentary that's really critical of something, people will shy away from because it's almost like subconsciously they understand that this is a movie made like, just to hit someone while they're down or just to bash someone.
An example of like what you're saying would be like a Michael Bay film or recent Adam Sandler movies or like that. Where it's
like the kind of joke in an Adam Sandler movie that isn't twisting expectations.
Like laughing at someone because they are different,
and it's just
those are some of the
joke
more
you
homophobic
expect.
films I think
Just the exact joke you expect, and it goes right for the low blow.
Yeah,
and it's just it's not fun hitting someone while they're down. Somebody who already has a stereotype attached to them, and just like hammering it in again and again. You gotta love that person.
Of fifth, fourth grade humor. Honestly,
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, this person's weird. Let's make fun of him. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, it's incredibly lowbrow.
It's really interesting to think when we talk about these films, and particularly like talking about the way that we approach making arguments for things, or to convey themes, like the difference between the Westboro Baptist Church and any other kind of major group that is arguing certain rights. But where am I going with this? I apologize. Either way, it's interesting to think about this from the standpoint that with regards to passion, obviously as artists, people will argue that passion is an incredibly important part of doing any piece of work. Because otherwise, there's no drive to get it done. It's not done with heart, not to sound cheesy or corny, but
No, that's like quantifiable.
But then of course there comes that you have to take into account the balance that exists of whether or not you're actually approaching the subject with detailed thought about the whole situation, or if it's just coming in just straight from the drive of passion.
I think that's why something like Spring Breakers is like a textbook example of how to go about portraying a culture or like a niche like group of people,
Right.
because it does have that. It's highly critical of them, while at the same time it tries to relate to them. It tries desperately to relate to them.
Or
It actually
even
understands
like,
the whole context
almost
of why
to
that
extent like a Christopher
culture
Guest
exists.
documentaries like that. It's exploring
Yes,
niche
that's
culture.
absolutely-
That's a
And it's
brilliant
kinda,
example,
It's kind of
yeah.
satirizing and parodying them, but it's also showing like they love their stuff.
I think
Like they love people love dog shows.
Like Spinal Tap is a band that they make fun of
Yeah.
every cliche they attach to
they
them.
humanize them so
But
well.
at the same time, Stonehenge is a great fucking song, and you can't deny it. They get out there, and it's a ridiculous show of pompous and excess and self-indulgence, him playing the violin with the thing, but then the song is awesome at the same time. He's a blowhard. He wants to call the song Lick My Love Pump, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song.
It's a beautiful
That's one of
song.
my favorite parts of that movie.
And yeah,
I think
that's something that makes that film brilliant. And
I think a modern kind of duo that does this thing really well, and kind of in disguise, is Trey Parker and Matt Stone. I think
Yes.
they're
Yes.
really really good
Oh, yeah.
at like a lot of people don't realize that when they make fun of people on their show, they're kind of making fun of people who make fun of those people.
that's pretty
Like,
much the
that's
crux of
basically
every
my
South Park's
point.
episode is
And the way they do that satisfies both crowds: the people who just think it's funny to make fun of those people, and then the people who need someone to make fun of the people
Yeah.
who are intolerant of the people that are in the limelight. Because a lot of South Park episodes will take just a subject or a group of people, and then the whole episode will be about that. Like
Yeah.
the Occupy Wall Street episode,
They're kind of against
all those
like
kind of-
they really don't have an
hippies.
agenda. You can't really base your political
No,
beliefs
no.
off of South Park.
Yeah,
They
I
kinda-
think
it's kind
that's-
of like they just kind of
they're kind of
there's some
they're kind of just the neutral god.
you know what
in
they
the
are
sky.
they're
really
the,
just
the,
don't-
the two Muppet critics
yeah they
of
are
the real
really
world.
Yeah.
Just making fun of everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like they
That's a fantastic way to look at it.
I was gonna say they
They're just the peanut gallery.
there's some like minor things they always have against like it's kind of they kind of have a certain affection towards Mormons. They kind of don't mind
Yeah, they're
Mormons.
absolutely like that.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Mormons.
But
Yeah. So incredible.
Scientology, they have a major beef with. Like when they have a Scientology episode, they completely just trash it.
for something that gets attacked a lot for being offensive and stuff. They really have a very like moralistic and
Yeah.
conservative
Trey Parker and Matt
almost
Stone are
look on a
very
lot of things.
Smart people, and
Yeah.
they're not just they're the kind of people that aren't necessarily on like a political level knowledgeable of a wide spread of things, but they're really knowledgeable of how the media can be used to perpetuate certain ideas, and they're just masters of that.
They're able to get down right to what people notice most.
Yeah. They're not
in an issue.
attacking any particular party. They're not talking this or that. It's just the coercion that comes from what everyone keeps saying about something.
Yeah.
That's like their whole thing. And I think the way they do that is just absolutely brilliant.
And I think the best way that they do that is usually in the episodes they have two running plot lines at the same time.
Typically, yeah.
Typically. So, but they draw parallels between them so well, and those plot lines that they seem that they're completely disparate, disconnected things, but they really work well together. Like there's one episode where Cartman shows everybody, yes, you can eat things by putting it through your butthole, apparently. And they also parallel that with the Vatican Church.
Yeah.
Or Vatican
I think
City.
the best one is when Carmen is like trying to stage another Holocaust, like get all the Jews out of South Park.
Yeah.
But at the same
Yeah.
time, he's like protecting all these cats in his attic from like I don't know. People get like addicted to cat piss or something. I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Kenny died
what's it
from
called?
that.
Oh my god, what's that? What do they call that?
Like
Cheesing or something?
cheesing, yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that one.
And like he's like just like
Snorting
he's
cat
like
pee.
it's like all these cats are like Anne Frank in his attic, and he's just he's like goes on this monologue about how you have to accept everybody.
What about the
While-
goth kids are really funny too, about all the
Yeah.
goth kids. And they finally like stop being goth, they just look ugly and everyone makes fun of them, and then they realize why they were goth in the first place.
Yeah.
It's just like, ooh,
Yeah.
low blow.
Yeah.
Great. Wow, we talked a lot about
Yeah,
that.
I think we should like move
Should we move on?
I mean, that
Yeah.
facilitated
Well,
a nice discussion.
well,
but
I recommend anyone listening to this to go see Spring Breakers.
and maybe if you're up to it, watch Project X just to compare the two.
if you want to
It's a nice double
analyze a film that has
If you're a student of cinema and you want to like,
misunderstanding
learn
of what-
how like
I would
they-
watch Project X second.
yeah.
I think they'd make a good double bill in that way.
Yeah.
If you want to see a bad film that is probably going to put you in a bad mood.
Yeah, because Project X, you kind of like. I think after Spring Breakers, you'd be so excited and be so into it that you could watch anything at the moment, and then when you watch Project X, you'd be like brought down by it, but you'll be like, oh, I kind of see how
Yeah.
one film is clearly more interesting than the other,
Yeah.
and plus you can just kind of turn your brain off for half of Project X.
Yeah. It's kind of nice. But, should we talk about the Bling Ring? Has anyone here seen that?
I've not seen
No.
the Bling Ring.
Yeah, I've seen The Bling Ring. If you had
Okay.
brought that in, we
I've
could
only
have
seen, like,
talked
half of
about
that.
that a little bit because that's
Okay.
very
well,
similar.
George
to
has only
Spring
seen half
Breakers.
of it. It's basically just Jarrod and I, so we'll bench that one for another time. But I would
yeah.
like to talk
I
about
say-
it.
What other films have you guys seen like on your own? Just talk
Recently,
about
I
it
saw
briefly.
Disney's Frozen, which is quite adorable and magical and sweet, and has some great songs in it. But we're not going to talk about that because it doesn't really fit in the format of the show this show.
And also, no one else has seen it. So.
Yeah, but Thor 2 or Thor: The Dark World.
I loved Thor: The Dark
Yeah,
World.
Yeah,
Thor: The
that
Dark
is a
World
really
was
fun
pretty
movie.
great.
It's great.
It was so much fun, and
It was like sci-fi, mythical. It's good. Movie.
it was straight up good popcorn movie, and it was straight up good characterization.
Yep.
How the antagonist is the antithesis of the protagonist, which so many movies miss.
Yeah.
Like, right, like to take Star Wars for an example. Darth Vader is the antithesis of Luke Skywalker,
Right.
and Luke Skywalker, if he made the wrong decisions, could become
Absolutely.
He's so close to
Darth
being
Vader.
Vader.
And that's-
Joker
and I-
antithesis of Batman.
exactly, and that's
yeah.
what makes good rivalries. That's what people remember, and I think this movie had a really good one. I'm still like remember that antagonist in an interesting
You're
way.
speaking
and
of Loki?
Yeah.
no,
or
I'm
the
speaking
other
of the
elf
elf,
guy.
the dark
Okay.
elf.
All right.
Because Thor sacrifices his own intentions to protect the realms, and everything every
Yeah.
Malekith, the elf, every decision he makes sacrifices someone else for his own gain.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
the big that's the big climax of it, is Thor understanding his place in the world.
Yeah.
And
I think
yeah.
it's a great example of like how even in Star Wars 2, to compare the two again, it's kind of like you have all the characters are willing to sacrifice themselves for something that's greater than themselves. You know what I mean? Like Idris Elba bringing down the ship, and he's like willing to just jump onto it and like do his duty. Or even Loki turns at one point, he like is willing to like make the sacrifice that we
Yeah.
presume is made when he makes it.
And
or
I wanna-
the mother standing heroic
Yeah.
against Malekith.
I want to
and things
say
like
definitely
that.
this film is the one so far that is. I think this is the best Marvel film as of late. Of this whole renaissance, I think this is the best one.
Arguably, I could agree.
I think it's definitely.
Next to
I,
the-
I
maybe
was
next
so
to the Avengers.
entertained and so immersed in this
For me.
movie.
I would
thought
say-
it was
I would
great.
honestly-
So you might be
But
careful.
let me make my point
Sorry.
I was going to make. I just wanted to.
Turn
That
his
was like
mic
an
off.
aside.
I just wanted to warn
But
George about
I
the-
think this film definitely has the best depiction of Loki, because he was actually playing tricks,
Yeah.
which he
Right.
had never
Yeah,
done
oh
before.
my God.
And I was always
I
like,
didn't understand that.
Yeah, he's a cool character, but he doesn't play any tricks.
no tricks.
He's the trickster god.
Where's
And
the
this
tricks?
movie, he was playing tricks 24/7. He was showing up here, showing up there. I thought it was great
Yeah.
the way they did it, and the
Yeah.
relationship between him and Thor really came to a head in a way that was interesting. And I think the relationship between them clicked better than it had before,
Yeah.
because it was really not at the forefront, but it was an intricate part of the narrative.
Yeah.
And I think this movie just got it right down to a T perfect. Like,
I also really like the Tolkien-esque beginning prologue thing where it was like
It was
the
very-
Five
yeah,
Kingdoms
it was
and
very
blah, blah, blah.
Fellowship.
Yeah,
Very
it was
Fellowship.
pretty
So well for that
awesome. And it's also just like it's like that kind of fantasy medieval
Yeah.
aspect, but in space with laser guns.
I feel
and
like
shit.
it's
just like,
so
oh my
weird
God.
that
Cool,
you know,
cool
like the
mix.
Thor franchise has replaced the Tolkien franchise as like my fantasy kick now.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You know, there's also another, back to Loki again, there's another great scene where you just, in terms of developing as a character and just, you know, humanizing him to a degree, is where, you know, Thor is coming down just to inform him
Yeah,
that Mother
I know
has
exactly
died.
what you're talking
And then, you know,
about.
so,
So
he
good.
does the whole illusion where he's just walking around, pacing back and forth, and he seems like he's being, you know, kind of, well, whatever. But then the whole illusion disappears, and he is just on the floor, broken, all the furniture is destroyed, and you can just see how he is broken like everyone else
Really
in
good.
the
It
situation.
had a lot of moments like that were really character.
One of my first movies when he's like
Great.
disguising himself, and he's like, "Well, I must be one of your new best friends." And he plays
Oh,
Captain
yeah.
America. He's
Yeah.
like, "God, I love America." It was so.
That was fun.
I thought I was
really
gonna die
great.
when that
Yeah, it was
came
really,
up.
really good.
I'm looking forward to the Winter Soldier quite a bit.
Yeah, see,
I have high hopes for that one.
I think I really like the Avengers just because it gave
Just a
me
novel
kind of,
idea. Just
yeah,
cool to
just
see
because it
actually
could have been
being made.
so fucking terrible.
Yeah.
and it was so not terrible. I honestly was. I was
That's
also
the best
just.
way to judge a film.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you're
I mean,
talking about how many
you're talking-
6 superheroes,
yeah.
and you're caring about them somewhat equally. You know, some probably more than others. Probably
See, the
Iron
whole
Man a
time
lot
I just
more.
wanted Thor to go off and have an adventure.
Really.
I shit you. And part of it is because Chris Hemsworth like is magnetic on the screen. Like that dude is a movie star.
Well, you really like the
That
Thor
guy's
side of it,
got
huh?
it. Chris Hemsworth has got it.
I just thought
He's got that
He did
wow
rock them.
factor.
The-
And you know, I like Tony Stark, but I was
Yeah.
like, he
You've seen it
kinda
so many
took-
times
He
already,
kind of
that's
took the
kinda like-
forefront of the movie, and I'd already seen like Iron Man, which is
Yeah.
like his story, and I kind of just wanted like, okay, either you go off on your own adventure and let me like see what's going on with you, because I want to see the characters.
The biggest thing about that movie was the kind of meta movie that it was. It was first of all an ensemble superhero movie that worked. It was a superhero movie that was written by Joss Whedon. It was a Marvel movie, and it was good. Like that's incredible, and it
didn't
made a
like
lot
it.
of money. And it was
See,
really
I wasn't
So
crazy about
one
it.
thing to
Oh,
point
I
out
liked
is
it.
that two of the
I find it
Dude,
hard.
but-
I
but,
find
like-
it surprising not to like it.
Let me-
Such
can I
like
just-
a cinematic.
can I
Can I
finish
bring
what I'm
up,
saying?
like-
I just found it
Can
so
I-
underwhelming.
Can we
Really?
please bring
And-
up the fact that 2 of the 5 people in this room did not actually find the film amazing, though I'm part of the 3 that did really like it
Okay, yeah.
and
fine.
enjoy Joss
Yeah.
Whedon in general.
But I'm just saying the fact that it was just trying a lot of like when I first saw the trailer, I'm like, this movie's gonna be terrible. It's not gonna work. But the moment that kind of Iron Man was there with his guns on, or no, it was Captain America there in a stance, and Iron Man came down and put his guns on Loki, and he said, "Hello, Mr. Stark," and he goes, "Hello, Captain," and then there's just that beat of them just standing there, and then there's like that Harrier in the background. You're just like, holy shit, this is actually happening. Like this
Yeah.
isn't bad. This is not like this isn't falling apart at the seams. Like, you know, because there's
Yeah.
a lot of shit that
It's
can
not,
go
it's not,
wrong.
it's not the 70s Captain America
Yeah.
movie, you know?
See, I always had an issue when I was reading, you know, classic Marvel comics.
Sure.
Like, I'm a huge fan of Spider-Man. I've read like through like the
We
first
can talk about
200
Spider-Man.
issues of
One.
Amazing Spider-Man and like the first 100 of Spectacular Spider-Man. So
Yeah.
and I always had a problem with like the goofy team up episodes.
Really?
Not
Okay.
episodes, but
That
they
just
did
sounds like
episodes
this
too on the
movie
show.
maybe
But
just wasn't for
com- I always had a problem with
Conceptually
that.
speaking.
Yeah.
Some of them worked because they found a way to balance the characters, but for some, there's a reason why those characters are different characters. They're not, you know, Batman's got a sidekick and it works because they fashioned him for Batman. But when you team up, there's a really great issue of Spectacular Spider-Man that Frank Miller had a part in, where it's Daredevil teaming up with Spider-Man, and they had Spider-Man blind for the episode.
Oh wow,
For the
that's
for the
cool.
issue, something blinded him, and they had, I think the
Daredevil's
name of
blind.
it was The Blind Leading the Blind or something,
Yeah.
and it was really interesting because they found a dynamic to play off of. But so many times I found it was just them making wisecracks to each other or making jokes about how the other one can't do this and that one can. You know, one does a big jump and then the other one has to walk around or something, and they make a joke about it, which is, you know, fun in a nerdy kind of way because you know the characters, but at the same time it doesn't really give me any satisfaction on a story level or
Sure.
on a character-driven level. And the Avengers movie, I just felt it was too many characters at the same time, and it didn't quite click. as why they were there together, other than the fact that those were those
I
characters
think what
and
you're
they've been
looking
put
for,
together before.
I think what you're looking for might be more true in the sequel. I think in the first one they had to remember we gotta this is like a gamble for Marvel. If Avengers 1 sucked, that would have thrown off everything. They had so much momentum building up to it, and if it flopped, it would have sucked. So they had to make it okay, we still gotta make it still in a way a film by committee.
And I feel like they played it safe a bit.
They didn't play it safe, but I think
I'll see the sequel and I'm interested to see it. But I felt like they played it safe a bit.
I'd rather them play it safe and just prove that an ensemble cast of superheroes can be done, rather than assuming that it's like a cakewalk and then have it fall apart like Dark Knight Rises. Because there was no way that script would have worked for Dark Knight Rises. It had Catwoman, Ra's al Ghul, Talia al Ghul, Bane, fucking just villainous characters.
So overloaded.
It's so overloaded. And I know you like Spider-Man 3, but in terms of how
Spider-Man 3 does it in a cheeky, comical way.
But I think
Dark Knight
Avengers
Rises
as well.
is No, I'm talking about Dark Knight Rises for a
okay.
second, which I know you're not crazy about either. Dark Knight Rises is still in the uber serious Chris Nolan mode, but then at the same time you've got an avenging mistress and a backstabbing and a bomb that's going to go off, and it's okay, I liked when a bomb was going to go off and it was Adam West, but when it's Christian Bale and a bomb's going to go off, no, that doesn't cut it.
That movie is just keep it simple, stupid. Christopher Nolan needed someone to come around and just say, listen, I know you have 15 things that you wish you could put at the tail end of this and backload all this bullshit. Just pick one, please, and then focus on it, make a good movie, and just be done with it.
Yeah.
But he couldn't do that. He had to get Bane in there. He had to get more Ra's al Ghul. He had to get nuclear bombs. He had to get his fucking the Bat instead of actually calling it the Bat.
And
the fuck
you're right. Avengers did get the tone right, and I think the tone of that movie was strong. But for me, it was just underwhelming. I was been there, seen that. I've seen all these dudes before doing this stuff, and now they're together, and it wasn't enough of a gimmick for me to really be interested in it because the story was so facilitated the idea to get those guys on the screen.
Well, it's good that you're still a fan of the Marvel stuff.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it because I've always been a comic book fan, and I've always loved the Marvel universe. Always been a Marvel guy over DC. And I'll still go see all of them. I'll still see Amazing Spider-Man 2, even though I hated the first one.
Yeah. I didn't care for the first one.
I'll wait for DVD, but I will see it. But
I'm probably not going to see Spider-Man 2 in theaters.
I'm not going to go see it in theaters. Cause
I may not even see it.
Yeah.
I just don't like watching films that I know I'm going to get frustrated by.
Yeah.
If it gets decent reviews, maybe I'll check it out. But then the last one got decent reviews. So.
Yeah.
And should we talk about the Hunger Games? Has anyone here seen that?
I mean, I did see it. So in comparison to the first Hunger
besides
Games,
you and I.
yeah.
Sorry. Has
No one else has seen the new one.
But I haven't seen
probably
most of
bench
these
that for
movies we're
later.
talking about.
I saw the first one, haven't seen the new one because I wasn't crazy about the first one.
Has everyone seen the first one?
Yeah.
No. Well, I saw the first half and got really annoyed with it and turned it off.
All right,
there you go.
We're not going to talk about Hunger Games.
It's
Should we move on? Thor. You've seen Thor.
Yeah.
You saw Frozen. What else? What other real movies have people seen?
I have
real movies.
I have a
real,
few.
actually gone out and seen movies.
Oh, okay.
I have a few weird movies I've seen that I just wanted to mention. I went on a blaxploitation kick, which I'm still kind of on, but I saw a great
Once you
movie.
go black.
Hey. Like my coffee, the way
What's
I
your
like my
blaxploitation
movies.
films you've seen?
Good. But I saw a great one that I've always been meaning to see because it's a blaxploitation horror film, and not like Blackula. It's like a serious one. It's almost an art film. It is an art film. It's called Ganja and Hess, and directed by this guy Bill Gunn, who was mostly a writer. He was a playwright, and I believe this is the only movie he directed. But he also wrote a Hal Ashby movie.
Oh, that's cool. Which one?
The Landlord.
Okay.
I believe he wrote that. Came out in 1973, and it stars Dwayne Jones, who is the lead in Night of the Living Dead. And this is the only other lead role he had. He had a bunch of other bit parts, but this is his only other lead role.
Yes.
And it's a blaxploitation art film vampire movie.
Wow.
And this movie is fan-fucking-tastic.
All right.
What's it called again?
Ganja and Hess.
Okay.
It's a romance in a weird way. It's got like some of the coolest abstract editing. The ending is so haunting and weird. It's got all these strange sound design that's really haunting and weird. The photography is incredible. Like the framing of the characters is so interesting. Like the way they're framed, you just constantly looking at where the people are placed in the frame. It's just all around fantastic, and I don't really have anything to say about it other than that. But I think people should see it, especially if you like, early 70s like exploitation type movies,
Alright.
but can also dig an art house flick. But I saw another one. This isn't a blaxploitation movie, but a straight up exploitation rape revenge movie. This is one I've been meaning to see for a real long time, and I finally sat down and watched it. It's called Thriller: A Cruel Picture. It's a Swedish film. When they released it in America, they called it, they recut it, and they named it They Call Her One Eye.
Huh.
I think I've heard that title before.
It's the main character in this movie was the inspiration for Daryl Hannah's character in Kill Bill
Nice.
All right.
with the eye patch.
I
Yeah.
love that movie.
That's like the look of this character down to a T. And it's about a girl who's molested as a child, and she's mute from then on. And then later on, when she's an older teenager, she's abducted by this guy. They get her addicted to heroin, and they force her into prostitution. And that's like the long build-up of the movie. It's really hard to sit through at points, but the last like half hour, 45 minutes is the long build-up to the bloody revenge at the end. And it is...
Satisfying.
This movie is a masterpiece. In
I
my
want
opinion.
to. This is
This
you
movie-
got me interested. What's
this-
it called again?
Thriller: A Cruel Picture.
Thriller,
And
A Cruel
that's the name of... Now is the 107-minute cut. The full cut. There's also a 144-minute cut.
Sure.
No, 104-minute cut.
Right.
That takes
3
out...
minutes of action.
That takes out... there's hardcore pornography scenes. Like, this movie just pulls no punches.
Right.
Mhm.
Like, the John comes in, gives her the money, and... Yeah.
Like literally, okay.
Yeah, like penetration. Like, it's
Yeah.
really
Like
tough.
Lars von Trier
It's
level.
it's really tough to sit through at points. And there's also one shot involving an eyeball, which she has an eye patch. Put together what happens. That is
Oh, okay.
is
Well, I'm
cut.
gonna have to close my eyes for that.
It's
That shit
it's
bothers
cut
me.
from the 104-minute cut, but there's an 82-minute cut. That's the They Call Her One Eye cut that cuts out tons of like all the porn, all the like. I haven't seen it, so I don't know, but I would highly avoid that. I get one of the other two.
The Love Conquers All cut.
Love covers all. Yeah.
Brazil.
I
But-
mean, I have the Blu-ray Criterion, but I never watched the.
Yeah.
I never really was like, oh, I should probably watch this because I love Brazil, but I'm like, I don't really want to
I don't
sit
want-
through a
but
45-minute cut of one of my favorite movies.
This movie, They Call Her One Eye, Thriller: A Cruel Picture, whatever you want to call it, is... I was so into this movie.
Cool.
The ending is amazing. The photography at the end,
Where'd you find it?
It's just
The library or something?
I watched it online.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but there is a DVD out that I will probably pick up
Somewhere
at some
out there.
point. Yeah.
Well, neat. Should we... Does anyone have any notable films to talk about, or should we just talk about Only God Forgives?
I think we
saw.
should.
I mean, briefly. I guess you mentioned. I saw Evie Toloni. I'm a big Fellini fan, and it's one of his earlier films. And I saw Evie Toloni. I've heard from Martin Scorsese that it was one of the main influences on Mean Streets. It's the one that made him
I
realize. that
love Mean Streets.
Me
Just
too.
saying.
It's a film that made him realize that if he can make a film about his hometown, he can make a film about Elizabeth Street in New York City. And
Cool.
so watching that and realizing that there's a lot of Scorsese influence in terms of how there's one character named, oh my god, what's his name? His name is Ricardo, I want to say. And he's kind of the Joe Pesci or the Robert De Niro of Mean Streets kind of character where he's always pushing his luck so far, where he's cheating on his wife, and like he's always seen other women, he's always pushing his luck, and you know it's going to end horribly for him. And when his comeuppance comes, it's so like, oh, you deserved it, and it's
Yeah.
like, but you almost feel bad for him too at the same time. It's such a great moral statement about it, and it has that same Fellini, like, what I love about Fellini is like, I love how like his aesthetic is kind of always like setting, opening shot, like on a party, this fancy Italian party, it's kind of the
Yeah.
umbrellas and everyone's smoking, wearing sunglasses, kind of like that suave coolness of it, and it's kind of like,
Fellini likes to live vicariously through
Yeah.
his characters.
Yeah.
You got all these scenes of,
I mean-
Marcello, wandering around the city with these beautiful women. It's just Fellini, like,
yeah.
getting off to
An 8.5
visual poetry.
and-
And
eight and a
I
half
think
in the
Tarantino's
beautiful-
the same way. I think there's a lot of
Yeah, the
directors like that
cafes,
just
yeah.
like to live
and
through
the drinking
their
the
characters.
coffee and the donuts and the burgers. That's all there too. But Evie Toloni, great Fellini movie. I don't know if it's one of my favorites yet. I got to think about it more. But I dug it a lot. If you're a fan of Fellini, just
I
check it
definitely
out.
need to see that because I love Fellini.
I also saw The Red Balloon One of
it's
the
a nice
most
little
famous short films.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen it, and I saw it finally. I was like, I got 30 minutes on my time. Check it out. Great.
It's just a nice little movie.
Solid,
Yeah.
I'm glad I saw it. Check out Red Balloon.
Well, neat. Neato.
Neato.
Any other films?
The only important film I've watched recently was Gene Dealman, which I watched over break.
Gene
made that?
Dealman?
Chantal Ackerman.
Oh,
There you
cool.
go.
All right.
It was okay.
Nice.
It's pretty good.
I
like-
want to see stuff by her.
I mean, it's really long. It's like 3 hours and 21 minutes.
Okay.
And it's all...
Jeez.
I don't know what the average shot length is, but it's got to be at least 3 minutes.
Nice. I'm into that.
What's the name of the film again?
I don't know. Gene
Jean
Dealman.
Dealman.
Wait,
It's got a longer
It
title.
has a
but
much longer title, but if
How
you
did
look
you
up...
see it?
it's on Hulu Plus.
It's in the Criterion.
All right,
so.
nice.
Yeah. And it's like a feminist tale, like a housewife just does chores for 3 hours, and in the last few minutes, like you see how her boring life has affected her in a really messed up way.
Oh.
I already know what happened. I haven't seen it yet.
I'd be willing to.
I feel like really
watch
guilty
it.
that I haven't watched it yet because I know I'd love it, but I already know what happens at the end.
I liked it. It's not really like... It's like a long time
Seems
for
kinda like-
something that's not
It's
satisfying.
almost kind of like neorealism in a way. Where
Yeah,
kind of just
it's
about, like, her
extremely...
life.
You're basically
Something
watching
like it.
her do the same, like... There's 3 days, and she does the same thing every day, but, like, as the day goes on, she, like, makes more mistakes every day.
Okay.
Like, you can kind of see her, like, really, really subtly start to unravel.
Would you say it's a film about the minor details rather than the big picture?
Oh, yeah, like, you really have to pick up,
The big picture. Oh, shit.
like,
You can talk about that one.
she
Yeah.
missed, like, one button in her jacket. Like, you really, like, she missed that button. But that's, like, actually, like, a big deal is that she missed this one.
That's
button.
awesome. I can't wait to see
That's
that.
a lot like,
Yeah.
kind of like Groundhog Day, where this one thing is different. And then-
Really? Like embarrassing that. But
Well, you know what?
I actually rewatched Groundhog Day like
the movie
like
is
a week ago.
exhausting. That movie is one movie played 20 times over.
I
and
don't
over
find
again.
it
That's
exhausting.
true.
I
It
just
is
find
good,
that
but it's
movie.
my god, that movie feels like it's 4 hours long.
You know, movie I actually
Really?
really dig is Source Code.
I love
The
that
Duncan
movie.
Jones movie. Have you seen that?
Oh no, I haven't seen that.
Is
Oh,
that
it's good.
Directed by the same guy?
Yeah. Well, Duncan
Oh.
Jones. Yeah, Duncan Jones directed it. It's his
I didn't know
follow up to
that.
Moon.
Yeah.
But it's like
Source Code.
it's
But yeah,
it's
I
good
like
if you
Source
if you I mean I love Moon, but if you found Moon a little too slow paced for you, this has an interesting amount of substance to it, but it's definitely a more quicker pace, definitely more of a Hollywood picture. But it has that kind of same like you still have that kind of 70s sci-fi aesthetic where it's kind of isolative. That's not a word. Isolationist, kind of a little like bleak, but still has a good amount of like
It's got
fun
some
to
Hollywood,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, see, because the one thing I really liked about Moon was the aesthetic and the pace of it. I wasn't too crazy about like the actual content of Moon,
Yeah.
which I thought was more just
Right.
like say I've seen like same old like like you know like I've seen like Solaris exists. Like I don't
Okay,
need
yeah,
this
I
in
know
my
what you
life,
mean.
but
Right.
I like the aesthetic and the throwback kind of had like a silent running type vibe to
Sure,
it.
Silent
So
Running,
if Source Code doesn't have the vibe, does
Source
the
Code
content
is
make
not
up for
like
it?
the Moon, but I
not.
could see
Is
Yeah.
the content really exciting? Is it like
in Source Code. I mean, I don't think about it every day, but like
Yeah.
when I saw it, I liked it.
Yeah. It's a
But-
worth a watch, I would say.
yeah.
It's worth a watch.
all right, maybe I'll check it
Not
out.
don't pay for it though.
Okay.
So I think we should talk about the film of the hour.
Yes.
What about Ed Wood and...
Oh,
Oh, we saw Ed Wood
Come on,
again.
just talk about Ed
Has
Wood.
everyone here
Can we
seen
just
Ed
quote
Wood?
Ed Wood now? I
I've
just
not
feel
seen
like,
Ed Wood.
Fuck you! You come out here. It's cold.
oh, what do you Baptists know? How would you hear about suspension of disbelief? It's my favorite lines.
Yeah.
all right. Only God Forgives.
Ed Wood's
Don't
great.
get goofy on me, Doris.
Ed Wood's really great. Loved him. One of my favorite Tim Burton movie next to Beetlejuice.
Yeah. You want to make out with the ladies?
Take
The
her
best
to
Tim
see
Burton movie is Nightmare Before Christmas, the one he directed.
Yes, because he totally directed that one.
Everyone knows
Henry,
that.
who?
Henry's.
Who?
Henry Selick is pissed about that whole thing. He wants more credit for that.
I don't blame him. He's really talented.
Yeah, no,
never gets
Yeah, no,
attention.
it's
Maybe
really
it's
sad
Beetlejuice.
when you see like the from the director of Coraline, and people are like, oh, so it's a Tim Burton film. I mean, or from the director of The Nightmare Before Christmas. Oh, Coraline's Tim Burton. It's like no, it's
I
him
feel
himself.
like that's a marketing thing trying to get you in the theater.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, obviously.
It's like,
'Cause if they said
stop
from
motion's
Henry
going
Selick.
down the tube, we gotta elevate it somehow.
Yeah.
All the goth kids and the hipsters love Nightmare Before Christmas. Want to market to those guys,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Right.
But Ed Wood.
Right, guys.
Ed Wood is a magical movie and has its Fellini-esque moments.
I would say the sunglasses and the black and white.
Oh yeah.
The
And those
umbrellas.
scenes where they're at the Brown Derby, like
Yeah.
marketing trying to get money for the movie,
Yeah.
are very like they remind me of this scene in La Dolce Vita. It's
I can see
very
that.
yeah, beautifully shot.
Really well
And the
done.
score, Howard Shore's score is amazing.
because it's about making a movie.
Yeah, and Martin Landau is a revelation in that role. It's amazing. It's uncanny. You forget you're watching an
I
actor.
know.
It looks like Ed Wood talking to Bela Lugosi after a while.
He deserved that Oscar. Like, in fact,
Oh, yeah.
definitely. It's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. God, come back, Tim Burton. Like, make something. Great.
Please, Tim Burton.
Please come back to movies. Really, I mean, I owe a debt to Tim Burton.
Don't come
I know.
back.
Making me-
just
for
come
making
back
me
and
wanna
make
make-
movies
He was like the
that.
first director I ever knew who he was and liked
Yeah.
and was like, gotta
No,
see
that's
Tim
true.
Burton's
I know,
movies.
right?
Like he was like the first dude.
He's
Yeah.
one of
Arthur,
the,
you
he
really
has one of
got
the more
into.
obvious styles that you can see from film to film. I think that's why it's
Yeah.
maybe one of the first that people start to recognize.
For me,
And
he
it-
was. I think ever since like, maybe. I mean, I didn't see Planet of the Apes, but I think after that's when it
Yeah.
went down. Yeah. I mean, after Satire Chocolate, I was like, oh, come.
And it's just it hurts so much. Like seeing like the new Tim Burton movie, some new piece of crap made of
Some
CGI because
rare.
he's so
He's
talented.
so much more than.
He's so talented, and it's really like hard to watch someone who's so
I think he's
talented
gotten
come out with
lazy.
movie and movie like remake and sequel after remake after sequel. That's just like studio movie, and it's like if that's what he wants to do, like you can't fault
make
him
another
for
Big
it.
Fish, you know, or something
But-
like that.
I really like Big Fish.
Have you seen Big Fish?
No, I
Oh,
haven't.
Oh no,
I
you
think
should.
it-
I
It's
think
a-
that's the only one I haven't seen.
it's a really lovely movie.
It's sweet.
But yeah,
All right. So I guess we should go on and talk about Only God Forgives.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nicholas Winding Refn?
So this has been a polarizing film. Has everyone here seen it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we all watched it.
Okay. Let's kind of just do like 30 words or less kind of synopsis of our opinion on this film in terms of like good, bad,
All right.
neutral.
Yeah, good idea.
So I really like the film, but I understand why people don't like it. George.
If I had to give it like a number right now, it's like gonna be 6.5 out of 10, let's say. I'm not crazy about it, but
30
see
words.
the appeal.
I like it. It's not my favorite of his. There are a lot of parts that I have problems with, but it's good.
I really like this movie. I think it's unique, and I like the way it tells its story, and it grabbed me. I was thoroughly engaged.
I love the fact that this is a 90-minute feature that takes the time to be very slow-paced, and it makes it work, and it doesn't exhaust you with the slow pace. It just makes it work, and it has really beautiful cinematography and really beautiful
32
imagery.
words.
Sorry.
I really enjoyed this film, and it's very different from other things. Probably not my favorite film of all time, but it was really good. Please watch it.
Really, it's not your favorite film of all time?
No,
Wow, I'm shocked.
I don't
Yeah.
have a favorite film of all time.
So, I think there's kind of two ways to look at this movie, right? There's the way of...
I think there's a lot more than two, but go on.
I'm saying that there are, though.
I mean, like,
there are at least two.
There's at least two,
Right?
Maybe 4.
4.5.
At least 7.
But there's the way of this film.
The Way of Nature and The Way of Grace, huh?
This film is shot pretentiously. The story.
Oh,
shit.
no, come on.
No, I'm saying this is a side.
Oh,
of the
that's
film.
a way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's shot
It's a wrong way,
pretentiously.
but-
It's got a shitty story. It hits you over the head, and
And there's random karaoke.
there's random karaoke.
Those- I just wanna say those are my favorite
There's
scenes.
also the side that this is near Kubrickian level filmmaking in terms of how it's shot. The story supplements the visuals. The story's good enough to have this. It's a good enough palette to paint this picture upon, I think. And it's just hits everything right. I think it gets
And
everything right.
There's random karaoke.
And there is random
Those
karaoke.
are my favorite scenes. They're so strange.
Yeah, I know.
And at the end, he dedicates it to Alejandro Jodorowsky, which I think he dedicated Drive to Alejandro Jodorowsky.
Did he really?
As well. But I don't think the movie's anything like you said. Kubrick is like the first thing that comes to mind, especially like that wallpaper straight out of The Shining.
The wallpaper?
The wallpaper in all the rooms.
Oh,
it's
oh,
like
for sure.
it
Yeah.
reminds me of the carpet in The
Yeah,
Shining.
it's like a hotel
but
overlook
I think
style.
those moments of karaoke are the one like real mark of Jodorowsky that you can see in this film. Like I could see like a very Santa Sangre type influence on those, and I loved those sequences. I thought those were, and all those guys sitting in the chairs watching, and I think I said when we were watching it, they look like terracotta warriors.
Yeah.
Sitting there in the chairs, like the terracotta warriors have come to the karaoke club to see their dead emperor god sing a song, and it's like that's so twisted
It's
and
interesting
weird.
looking at it.
It's not. I mean,
See, this movie is the kind of thing where I think I like it more the more I talk about it. Whereas I watched it, I didn't really talk about it much, kind of let it sit with me, and I was like, kind of exited my mind the next day. And then I was like, I must not really enjoy this movie because I'm not thinking about it the way I should. 'Cause I thought about Drive a lot after I saw it.
I think this movie is the kind you have to go into, like kind of knowing how to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Seeing
I think
it twice is really helpful.
exactly because. See, I went into it knowing the way it was going to be,
Exactly.
hearing so much about it, so I
sure.
was able the first time to focus on what I thought I needed to focus on,
Right.
and I loved it. But I think if you had gone to see this at the premiere and you weren't in the right mindset, especially coming off Drive, if you were thinking it was going to be
It's a very
anything like
fragile
Drive,
film. It's a very fragile film. Like its message,
It
what
is.
it's trying to do. It's very chaotic. Like it seems peaceful, but it's a very chaotic film. All the things that are going on in it.
there's a lot of things going on in this movie for a very simple plot, and a kind of plot that is done a lot. You know, somebody's disrespected the boss, and
Right.
you know, people are out for blood. Somebody's trying to get revenge. They're calling
Yeah.
in the big gun. You know, there's a fight. It's like it's very like
I think it's a film. We were talking about this on EFR. I think it's a film that is a study of masculinity and man's need to feel like he is the end all be all of existence.
I was gonna say I think it's a film about power
Right.
and being a protector.
Yeah.
And I think the title is ironic.
Interesting enough, I remember watching an interview with Nicholas Winding Refn, and he was saying, like, I always try to make movies about women, but I end up making them about violent men.
That's
Yeah.
really interesting.
But you know what? There's too many. Our culture is too full of people in encouraging men to be violent and women to be submissive, and to have films that focus on the strangeness
Yeah.
and the kind of primal and kind of like scary inherent violence that can be in a man, and critiquing that and criticizing that and putting that in the limelight, not the people who are victims of them. That's what's really interesting.
And that detail, perverting the idea of protecting someone, you know, like the man traditional role of protecting the woman. And then you also have this god.
Yeah.
The typical role of the god is to protect the people. Only God can forgive you. But God has got a samurai sword and is about to cut off your hands and
Right,
take away
yeah.
your free will. He's about to take away
there's-
the only power you have in the world, the hands that you can use to protect your loved ones.
Right.
He's about to take them away. Your brother's already dead. He's killed your mother, and he's taking away the one thing that you can do to protect yourself. And nobody's going to protect you anymore.
It shows the seemingly powerful nature of humans, of men, and then how the tenderness that lies between all of that. Like I think one of the most beautiful shots of the film is when he reaches into the mother's womb, because I
Yeah.
think it's hard to like I don't know how I've really interpreted that, but the best way I can describe it is he's touching his mother, he's touching his womb, the womb of the mother, and he still feels connected to it. And it's all about how you may be a man and you may be this protector and you may think you're a god, but at one point you were just inside of a woman's stomach. You were a part of a woman at one point. And I think that's why I think it is a critique on male gazes and male thought patterns of I am alpha, I am dominant, when you are still just a human. And yeah, God could have decided for you to die in the womb. You couldn't have fought back then, and I think it's super fascinating.
So I also you were bringing up the kind of submissive behavior of women in this film as well, and I think there's a really great scene where Ryan Gosling and the what is her name? The
Kristen
woman,
Scott Thomas.
Yeah. Kristen Scott Thomas.
not the mother,
Not the mother?
not the
Girlfriend?
mother, the girl,
Maya or whatever.
Maya, I'm guessing. But
Oh,
either way,
yeah, I don't know the
after
actress's
a really awkward dinner with the mother of Ryan Gosling's character, they're standing out in this kind of side alley to a restaurant, and it's like, I'm gonna leave now. It's like, okay, take off the dress. It's my dress. I gave it to you. And
Oh, yeah.
and then
But I think it's just like him exercising this godlike power, like, I give
Yeah.
you that dress to give it back. Just like how
It's very
the
tense.
God character in this movie is like, I gave you
those
hands, give them
them
back.
I want
Yeah.
them now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't
You've
want
lost
to
your right
choose
to have
anything.
those hands.
Yeah, and I'm going to take them from you.
You've lost the right to have the dress. My mother didn't like you, so you're no use to me anymore.
And I think it's so interesting that that guy, the police chief, is like a champion Muay Thai boxer or Muay Thai fighter,
Yeah.
isn't he? And I think that's really interesting because that's another thing. It's all about warriors, people who have been trained to fight, you know, against other men. Like that's what they do, and he is a champion at that. I think that's like it's like God as a warrior, God as a ruler, as a dictator, and I think it's a fascinating and it's a throwback to a very archaic way of looking at God, like like the old-fashioned way of looking at God, where you feared God. God was something that was above you.
Where God is dangling. You're a spider on a web, and God is dangling you above a fire, and at any minute He can let you drop. Like this old pre-Enlightenment idea of God as a fearful entity.
Yeah, I just think it's a
Very
fascinating.
Old Testament.
Yes, it's just a fascinating look at how childish man is in comparison to God.
Yeah, and
how man tries to push his chest out and tries to make big noises and big gestures to seem like he's more than he actually is, but in the end, he's still just a child. He's still he's the boy of a mother. And I think it's fascinating.
And if you have a protector, then you have to rely on them, and only they can forgive or protect you.
Yeah.
And
But
I
there's
think
no
that's part of the
guarantee.
creepiness of the title, which is also ironic because God doesn't forgive anybody in this movie. And also why I think it's kind of irrelevant to look for a devil in this movie, because a lot of people are trying to say, oh, this person's the devil, or I think this person symbolizes the devil. I think it's really irrelevant to look for a devil.
I think this movie is a reality where there is no devil, where God is the end-all be-all. It's a central figure.
There's only one person controlling your life. You only have one father.
And it's the thought that God can do the devil's job too. God can because that police chief is the ruler of the entire environment where the film takes place in.
Yeah.
And he is Satan because he punishes people. He sends people to hell, essentially, in this film. Like when he stabs that dude in the ears and eyes, he's basically sending him to hell. Like that's a very like Dante Alighieri like punishment for someone.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like a psychic who gets his head turned around. Like it's very symbolic and incredibly brutal and medieval, painful punishment, but it's like a divine one. And I think he's doing the devil's job by sending people to hell, but he's also doing God's job.
And I think it was you who was saying that you weren't too crazy about the daylight scenes outside, like in terms of aesthetic, but I think they also work in that aspect, because if we're talking about the God having a God-devil duality within himself, that we have these daylight scenes and these seedy night scenes inside, and he's still exacting his wrath.
Yeah, kind of. I remember you said once to me, like after we were talking about the movie, you were saying like you felt this was the kind of movie that you would envision making one day, like you said like why would you say like you said like because you feel like your writing would be more akin to this kind of aesthetic. You said
right. I was basically
lines?
saying I'm not a huge. It's I feel like my skills are mainly in the department of being able to interpret a story and then tell people the story. I'm not the best come up with fucking stories, you know? And this film was clearly, I don't know if it was written by Nicholas Winding.
It was.
Yeah, it was.
Okay,
Yeah.
it was. The story isn't really good. It doesn't have like a very conclusive ending. It's just not a traditional
narrative
3-act story structure.
Yeah, but it's
just
a very like typical kind of setup premise.
It's a
with,
very typical
Bob Boss
premise.
and,
very genre.
Yeah,
It's very like
he
it's like
wasn't
a
trying to
typical
do anything
crime
original
movie,
with the story in this, and that's the reason I thought that this film would be something I would make, is because it's such a director's movie. It's such a director's movie. It's not really a writer's movie. It's a director and a cinematographer's movie.
Yeah.
And one other thing I was going to mention, I don't know, I can't remember what I was saying, but I definitely feel like, just from a general standpoint, even though that those scenes with daylight need to be there, perhaps, or they're there for a reason, I still found that, just from a technical standpoint, it kind of made the visuals a little bit. It kind of broke it up a little bit, and it was kind of, I don't know, it seemed a little jarring to have those scenes, and it just didn't seem consistent. Like I feel like it would have been much more kind of hypnotic and strange and kind of just like I think it would have captured me more if the entire film was consistent with that kind of blood red and purple color aesthetic. But there's probably, if I were to go back and watch it, I'm definitely gonna watch this movie 2 or 3 more times.
I think we should watch it again. Yeah.
I think those scenes of daylight are there to remind you that, are there to juxtapose how fucking crazy, like, strange those night scenes are. Because the daylight scenes look like they could be in any other movie, but the
I don't think they do. They have a real style in and of themselves.
Yeah,
like that scene where he's walking against the water with the sword is like so.
I don't remember that scene for some reason.
Oh,
like
it's
in slow
Chang, and he's
motion,
going in
like-
slow motion with the sword and walking along like this path that's next to this like water.
Oh, right,
and
right.
that scene was so strange and weird in like a way you couldn't quite put your finger on. Like
That's true.
The scenes in the Bangkok's like dungeon or whatever they are very like the wallpaper's so strange and it's so distorted and the light and it's very apparent what is uneasy aesthetically. But those day scenes, just the way the camera moves and like the way everything's framed in door frames, like door frame framed in door frame framed in door frame, and there's the character like within like 5 juxtaposed frames, and
like the scene where
it's
they go
just
inside of the
strange
house
in a way you
and
can't quite
they're
put
waiting.
your finger on. Yeah. And I thought that was why those worked, because it was like almost the uneasy feeling you get sometimes, but you don't know why, or when you feel like you're being followed, or you feel like you're being listened to, which plays into the whole God theme.
Which is very Shining. Like, yeah. I think Shining has a huge influence on this film.
Like Shining, the opening scene of Shining, pure daylight, people driving down a road, is terrifying.
Yeah, it's still very
Because
creepy.
there's just something so uneasy about it. The way the camera moves along the water, the way the car is winding on that tiny path. It's just...
And the mountains, too, are very frightening looking.
But just total control of the director over, like, I don't need the dark lights. I don't need the low-key lighting.
The Shining doesn't use shadows as its main way of terrifying.
No, the shadow uses symmetry as horror.
Yeah.
As symmetry on a carpet.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It uses symmetry and the illusion of space. The illusion that there's something far away, but it's also very close.
Yeah.
Like it's got this, like this it gives you this inescapable feeling.
Yes.
Which is terrifying. But we're not talking
which
about
is
The
then
Shining.
perpetuated at the end in the maze. But
Yeah.
I think those exterior scenes had a kind of power like that.
My only problem with that is that Drive has a lot of day and night scenes, but that movie seems so like there's scenes of daytime, sunset, midnight, morning in Drive, and they all seem to flow in this same kind of, the brushstrokes seem consistent throughout the film. But this one, for me, it just seemed like they just stuck out a little bit too much.
I think that was more the intention of Drive, though, to tell a more complete story and make the story a bit more the focus. I mean, the style is still... The style and the aesthetic is
He was
still
making a Hollywood movie.
the point of that, but that's a classic story, too. And I think this movie was more back to what he was doing before Drive, with the more disjointed narrative that's more based on symbolism and implications of actions outside of the story. A story as a tether for metaphorical actions and character actions.
And I think it's also no coincidence that the ending song of the film is like a lullaby, something you'd see in like a nursery room with like a mobile over a crib kind of thing. Like that's kind of how I view this film. It's showing how every man comes from a child. Like they are children in the inside.
The thing I liked about this movie, I had to read Hamlet my senior year, and I had to do I had to read essays on psychoanalytic criticism. There were a lot about how a lot of theorists believe that all men have this unconscious desire to return inside the womb of their mother, and that all mothers have an unconscious desire to swallow up their children back into them.
Yeah.
This movie is very
yeah, I was just going to say it's very an extension of the Oedipal complex.
Right.
And all that.
I just thought it was interesting in that way.
That is super fascinating because he does reach inside of his mother.
Yeah.
And it's also the
I think-
thought that they have sexual relations.
And there's a
Definitely
huge
implication
part
of
of how evil women are in this vein of criticism. Is that women just like are selfish beings, and which isn't true, but the mother in this movie is a terrible person.
Yeah.
So
And I think the understanding of the main character that he comes through this film, that nobody's protecting him, that even God is out to get him in a way, and to reach into that womb is to try to reach back and reclaim a time when somebody was protecting you, when there was someone looking out for you.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just fascinating.
And
how-
of course it's a woman he reaches back to,
yeah.
because all throughout his life, brought up in this fighting, this Bangkok world of fighting, whether he was from a child or whatever, no man has ever looked out from him. A man has been fighting him. A man has been taking away his ability to make decisions. It's a woman he reaches back to, and of course it's this creepy woman who is also, got this Oedipus complex going on with him, and the finger going up the arm and underneath the sleeve, which is so brilliantly creepy
Just
and
nuance,
wonderful.
yeah.
And of course he reaches back to that, and it's like an extremity of that.
This film is just, it's really fascinating, and I just encourage anyone to see this film once, see this film twice, see this film 3 times. If anything, don't blow it off. I think there was too many critics that blew this film
I
off.
have mixed feelings about it.
I got
would say.
so mad when all these critics were like, "Oh, it's just Ryan Gosling's shtick now."
If anything,
No,
this
it's
movie
completely different from
right.
Drive.
If anything, this movie is not simple. If anything, this movie is not just some like throwaway thing. This movie has something that you need to read into this film.
I think this is a special and unique movie. Like,
Yeah.
I don't see any movies around now, not even Refn films, that are really like this.
Yeah.
Like in a real apparent way.
And whether
I
that's
say,
good or bad, at least
yeah,
it's,
I mean,
at
some
least
people
it's
are going to say,
unique.
"What the hell is this? This is
Sure.
like nothing I've ever seen before, and it's weird, and I don't like it."
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to see this film, I'd say you really have to see it.
Right.
If you're going to just half-ass watch it, I'd say it's better to not see it, because you're
Yeah.
not going to like it. And that's
Yeah.
not a slight on somebody who, isn't going to like, the slight on that person, because if you think what you're hearing about it is making you uneasy, and you're like, that doesn't sound like the kind of movie I'd like, I'd say honestly skip it.
Right.
And that's one of the first times I'll say skip a movie that's great.
Yeah.
It's a great movie, but honestly, skip it if what you're hearing negatively
Right.
seems to relate to how you usually feel about movies. Skip
Yeah.
it, because you're not gonna get anything out of it, and
Or
you're
just
not gonna
wait.
enjoy it.
Wait till you feel like you're up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you
Right.
feel up to the challenge of watching a film that operates differently in terms of its narrative and the way that it uses visuals to illustrate its metaphors and ideas, then totally check it out.
And I think that like I said in the beginning, I totally understand why somebody wouldn't like this film. I think
yeah.
if it were 4 years ago, no. If it were like before I was really into movies, I probably would be bored by this movie. If it was like 7th or 8th grade, I probably wouldn't really
Of
be
course, I mean,
digging
it's
this
like
movie.
you're-
You know,
you're a
kid,
but for people
different
who
things.
don't have a lot of experience with this kind of, well, no one does, because it's just so unique. But just all I'm saying is don't blow it off.
Yeah.
Don't simplify it. Don't trash it, because that's just not fair. You really shouldn't just do that with films in general, but especially this one, because
I'd say too, definitely watch it twice.
Yeah.
Because the first time I was like not all about it.
Yeah.
Like I thought it brought up interesting ideas, but I didn't think it had explored them enough.
yeah,
And I still have kind of problems with the beginning. There's a kind of dream sequence when he's with May or Mai.
She's masturbating.
And it's just kind of like you don't really know it's real. It's interesting. I just didn't like it that much.
Yeah, I went into that. That's one of the things that didn't strike with me. That
Yeah.
just didn't really connect.
But I definitely think watching it a second time is like the real weight of the
Yeah.
movie is not in that beginning weird sequence. It comes
Because you
later.
know what's coming, so you
Yeah.
can really focus on the more allegorical and metaphoric aspects of it.
I think it's also really interesting the reaction this got at Cannes. Didn't it get like a horrible?
Extremely
Yeah,
negative.
this is very bad
Yeah.
reviews.
Yeah.
Yeah. This movie
But
is.
plenty
If you
of-
ask
plenty of
a
great
general
films have
audience,
this
this is a horrible movie.
Yeah, all the way
Right.
back to La Aventura and everyone yelling "cut, cut" at that long shot of her running down the hallway because they hated it.
That's like.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, there's a shot where she's running down the hallway and everyone was yelling "cut, cut" because it lasted
That's
so
funny.
long and they
the French
Bunch
gets
of
so mad.
douchebags.
I know.
Coupe! Coupe! You can imagine that.
Yeah. Well, I think that just about does it. If you guys want to contact the show, email us at filmfetishpodcast@gmail.com. We will try and answer your questions.
We
on
did
the
get
air.
an email from my good friend Ben King where he said discuss 3 movies, but one we have not seen. So we're considering seeing the movie, Ben, if you're listening.
What movies?
The 3 movies he said: Predator, A Bug's Life, Dead Snow. Please discuss.
Okay,
And
I
I don't
have to
think
see Dead
anyone's
Snow, but I
seen
will
Dead
absolutely
Snow.
do that.
So we're thinking about.
I
seeing
was just thinking
Dead
about
Snow.
John McTiernan a second ago, so I'd be up
I'm
for
just
that.
gonna make a big corkboard string map thing that has
Yeah.
all the connections of.
Well, I suggested we do a Bug's Life 7 Samurai mashup episode.
That would be brilliant.
So,
That's Magnificent Seven. And,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's on my list of shit.
Yeah, and then I could see that because I've never seen Magnificent Seven. So
cool.
Oh, there
So
we go,
stay
yeah.
tuned for that.
So yeah, if you want to send an email, just filmfetishpodcast@gmail.com. Like us on our Facebook page, Film Fetish Podcast, and
we're still accepting interpretive dance videos. If
Yeah.
anyone wants to send them,
Yes.
do an interpretive dance based around a movie. Send us the YouTube link, and we'll talk about it on the show.
yeah,
We'll also
absolutely.
put a link in the description of the podcast we discuss it in.
We might even repost you on our Facebook page.
Like,
which is,
comment, and subscribe.
oh my.
I'm blogging on my Tumblr.
Yeah, subscribe because that's how you get these videos.
Yep.
They pop up on your newsfeed.
Give us the old thumbs up.
The old thumbs up.
Read
Tell us what-
Jarrod's blog.
Add it to your favorites.
Yeah.
Read Jarrod's film blog. Yeah. What's it? What? Film Static?
Filmstatic.blogspot.com.
Say that one more time.
Filmstatic.blogspot.com.
Check out my Vimeo page.
Check out our individual YouTube channels.
Send
Send
our-
our Let's Plays.
Send
No.
our parents postcards telling us that we're doing a good job.
Well, my gamer tag is XX Slayer XXXXX Master Chief.
Twisted Pussy 420 XL.
You can also find us on Redux, which is a website everybody uses, obviously.
And my eBay seller name is, I've got a 780 rating.
All right, guys, follow us on MySpace. Thanks for watching Film Fetish Podcast. I've been your host, Connor Boyd, and you've been joined by Alex, the Lex
My ham
Powell,
radio is my ham
Jarrod,
radio
Blackie
frequency.
White,
Black and black.
Aaron,
Freaking die.
I Die, and George the Mon Monard. Thank you guys for listening. Please tune in next time, or just watch the next video. See you guys.
Peace.
Hold on a second. We need outro music.
The truth.
Uh-huh.
That's
Bye.
The
Good
the
Gravy.
Yes.
The triple truth, Ruth.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Real official.
Because you can still hear Jarrod talking. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's gonna be like, it just sounds like such amateur. It's
ended the show yet?